Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And something very interesting is happening.
What?
A lot of comic book professionals are leaving Twitter.
Oh, darn.
In fact, a lot of them are leaving Twitter, and it's not hard to see why they're leaving Twitter. Twitter is awful.
Twitter sucks. I mean, come on.
It does, and especially comic book Twitter. Comic book Twitter is where a lot of faux outrage and cancel culture lives. And, it seems like every other day, miserable people on Twitter are finding new targets within the comic book industry to take the task to dredge up 12-year-old tweets.
Oh, I think cartoon people are worse, though.
Yeah, the cartoon people are worse. Yeah, believe it or not. A lot of people talk about how awful comic book Twitter is. Animation Twitter, I'm not talking about the professionals. I'm talking about the cartoon fans. In many ways, is 100 times worse.
Oh, yeah.
But this is like professional on professional career violence, I guess. You have a lot of, which is very weird. I think a lot of things going on. We'll talk about that. But the people who are getting out. They're not just getting out of the Marvel and DC mainstream industry, but they're ditching Twitter in various ways.
Well, however are these whiny people going to contact them and tell them they're canceled and tell them, because it doesn't actually really mean anything for the most part, and yell and scream about how misogynistic, istophobic, or whatever they are.
They won't.
Oh!
They won't.
Sounds like a win-win to me.
Because I don't think the average Twitter user is going to be able to send an email to Mark Millar and get a response.
Probably not.
It's not going to happen. So we're going to talk about the exodus from Twitter and why, it's probably one of the smartest things you can do especially if you're a pretty notable comic book creator current year, because somebody somewhere hates you and they're looking for dirt and they're looking to dredge up stuff. And
especially if you're a dude.
Especially if you're a dude and successful, financially successful.
How dare you?
So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 233,000 subs.
Woo-hoo!
Thank you for the support. Greatly appreciated. Hit the sub button if you want to keep seeing content here on Clownfish TV. I know some people don't want us to be here, and a lot of them live on Twitter.
Yeah, don't care.
Anyway, we do talk about comics, talk about animation, talk about pop culture, whatever interests us that day. And, we've been talking more about comics in the last couple of weeks because there is definitely something going on in the industry right now. A lot of people are leaving. Part of it's, because of Substack. Part of it's because of crowdfunding. And part of it just feels like
people are sick of shit.
Yeah, the pendulum is starting to swing. When you have so many A-list comic book creators not just leaving the mainstream industry, but also leaving Twitter, which has been kind of ground zero for all of comics culture, and where a lot of these major problems, dust-ups have occurred, including Dan Slott, who was out there literally telling people to pour through somebody's tweet history and find reportable offenses to get their account suspended.
Right, so you can continue the echo chamber.
Yeah, and this is a guy who works for Marvel.
Well, maybe if he'd work more.
If he'd work more and tweet less.
He's on Twitter all the time.
So now the latest person to leave is Mark Millar. And again, it's getting covered by media outlets that don't cover comics as much as they do other stuff. Screen Rant covering it, that Millar World is leaving Twitter to focus on newsletters. Now, he does not have a Substack deal. Other people are leaving to go. It's almost like we're going back in time. Yeah. I think Netflix, his Netflix deals are probably worth more than the Substack deal. But we're going back in time. We're going back to newsletters, back to message boards, back to blogs, and people are leaving social media. And I think part of the reason, people are going to newsletters, one, you have an email address of every person that's subscribing. In a lot of cases, you have their IP address too. So you can't really hide in the shadows as much with the newsletter. And a lot of times it's one-way communication.
And if you get threatened, they can track you pretty damn easy.
Oh, yeah. So I think that there's that. And again, it's like it takes a lot more work to sign up for a newsletter and all that than it does to just fire off some stupid tweets.
Right. And you're more accountable. It's gonna be a lot harder to cover your ass and a lot more steps.
Oh, yeah.
So, and who's going to waste the time? I just want to tell them to fuck off. I don't want to have to go through all that. Sorry, Mom.
Anyway, Mark Millar has announced that the brand is leaving Twitter in exchange for primarily newsletter-led communication with their fans. Now, this does seem like he's kind of doing his own Substack, but again, this is what people used to do. This is what webcomics creators used to do. This is what podcasters used to do. This is what we do on our blogs. We send out newsletters, and they have, kind of a bullet point of, all the articles that day if you missed anything. But I think we're going to see more of this and less social media because we see where it leads. So yeah, this is his announcement. He said, "Hey amigos, moving from Twitter to a free weekly newsletter. If you want the scoop on all of our genius movies, TVs, and comics, sign up now. Mark Millar, Mr. Mark Millar, /newsletter. Yeah, the question remains, why this move away from Twitter specifically?
Because Twitter's shit.
It is. Maintaining his other social media presences means that this is not a total removal from social media, but a tightening of how Millar World chooses to disseminate information.
Because of Twitter, and it sucks.
Yeah, why remain on other platforms but not Twitter?
Twitter used to be nice when it was like cat videos and fun stuff and people sharing their art. And then Tumblr went down and everybody came from there to Twitter, and now it's just shit.
Why is he leaving Twitter? Well, just a couple of months ago, he said 95% of the comic book buying audience is not on Twitter.
Yes, and he was right then.
He was 110% right. That's if that's a real thing. 110% right. And he got pushback from comic book Twitter, from journalists, from these like D-list comic book personalities. They all dogpiled on him, and he's one of the biggest comic book creators of the last 2 decades.
Twitter probably has the most toxic people that want you to walk a fine line to please them, but they're not going to buy your shit anyway.
Yeah, and he was 100% right in what he said. I think he probably thought about it, especially after all the backlash. And he was like, if my customers aren't here, why am I here? Why am I opening myself up to
your toxic bullshit?
To the toxic bullshit.
Yes.
And, he has to be looking around and looking at his peers. Other people that have left, Nick Spencer left a couple of years ago, actually. He's got a Substack deal too. But like these people are leaving, and the people that are staying are people like Dan Slott that live on Twitter and actively drive off customers.
Right.
And, so he's like, well, I want to sell books, and I want my stuff to get picked up, and I don't want to get canceled, and I'm too successful and too old for this shit.
And you can be canceled or something. Like, I made a joke like 20 years ago, and somebody has a copy of it, and so I'm trying, and it could have been legitimately a joke.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, somebody's offended. Basically, Twitter's just, you can sum it up with someone's offended.
Yeah, Scott Snyder, I know he got harassed on Twitter. There's several creators, top shelf talent, have been harassed on Twitter. And they were actually, it's so weird because the goalpost keeps moving. And, we talked about first, it was like, well, all the alt-right Yahtzees and the comic skaters, they're the bad guys. We're going to go after them because they're just shitty people. And then the goalpost started moving. Well, all the people who are adjacent to comic skaters and the alt-right Yahtzees, they're just as bad. So we're going to go after them too. And now it's like, well, these other people, yeah, they're awfully successful, and I don't know. I think they might be sympathetic to alt-right Yahtzees. I don't know for sure, but
they like money, so that's capitalism.
That's capitalism.
Is bad.
And
you
that's
the
bad.
Moderates that make sense and try to stay in the middle on both sides, even that lean left. Well, you know what? You're trouble too. So even if you lean left, you're bad. It's just ridiculous.
Silence is violence, and you just haven't spoken up against all the other shitty people in the industry like we do all day, 24/7, 7 days a week. So you got to get canceled. Then you find out who's doing most of the abuse and the tweeting, and there are people that either don't really do a lot of work in comics, or haven't worked in comics in a long time.
They're just mad because they want that. They want to kick them out. They wrongfully think if they remove them, they're going to get their seat.
That's exactly it. At the end of the day, you get, especially when you see who's being targeted for harassment now, that it's not the alt-right Yahtzees, that it's actually like just normie comic book creators who don't get into a lot of Twitter drama, but they're expected to signal on Twitter to make sure they can.
And a lot of them did.
And a lot of them did.
So if you get your butt kicked now, I mean,
you alienate a bunch of fans by, throwing another set of fans under the wheels of the bus. You might not get any backup, I'm just saying. But yeah, James Tynion left. Now he got a Substack deal, but that was the first thing he did. He's like,
how many of these have Substack deals?
Yeah, I mean, but it's interesting because Millar didn't get a Substack deal, but he's still leaving
yet, or that we know of. He's got other deals that
he's got.
I'm just saying, he's got money. Other deals.
He's got like the infinite money cheat code in The Sims.
I don't think he has that much.
That's
money,
Millar.
okay.
Well, comparatively speaking, compared to other comic book creators, he's got a lot more money. So I don't know if Substack could even offer him enough to make it worth. But there is a trend to be leaving Twitter. I think a lot of people need to be leaving Twitter. I'm just going to throw this out there. This is the deal. Twitter is, hands down, the most toxic, volatile, nasty social media platform to have ever existed. It's a horrible, horrible platform. If you can get off, I would say get off. We've actually taken Clownfish TV, and I made an announcement a couple days ago. I'm like, all this account is going to do on Clownfish TV is just tweet news and announcements. That's it. We're not interacting. We're not, because there is no good faith argument anymore. People drag you into Twitter slap fights and shit, and it's like, we've got better things to do. But Twitter was so toxic.
This was a few years ago before it got really, really bad. This was before Tumblr, wasn't it?
It was before Tumblr folded.
Yeah, this was before the Tumblr thing folded. So around because Tumblr was 2018?
Yeah.
So it was before it got really, really, really bad. It was too bad for Disney then.
Yeah, 2017, they were looking at buying Twitter. That was a rumor. And we'd heard that rumor because we were working for the other blog at that point in time. It was too toxic for Disney. They're like, I understand, it would be hard for a company like Disney to buy a social media platform anyway, because they'd be like, oh God, we really got to clean house. But they're like, yeah, there is literally nothing we can do to save this shit show. And they had entertained the idea of buying it, and they refused to buy it.
They spent most of their time promoting on like TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, this is what Iger said. This is what Iger said about it. Yeah, and they don't do a lot. Actually, Disney, I'll tell you the truth. Going back to this, when I was in the social media seminars and stuff that Disney would have for their approved media people back when they actually liked us, they literally ignored Twitter. They didn't care about Twitter at all. They flat said, because people were like, oh, I got a bunch of Twitter followers. They're like, yeah, we don't care. What's your Instagram like? What's your Facebook like?
What's your YouTube?
What's your YouTube like? But Twitter, we don't care about Twitter.
Now what's your TikTok like?
Yeah, what's your TikTok like?
They're really pushing hard on TikTok.
Basically everything but Twitter, because Disney knows that's not where their customers live.
Well, I don't think their customers live on TikTok either, but they keep bringing influencers from them and like trying to make videos about them on TikTok.
Oh, yeah. Make it stick. But yeah, this is what Iger said to the New York Times. He said the troubles were greater than I wanted to take on, greater than I thought was responsible for us to take on.
Agree.
There were Disney brand issues, the whole impact of technology on society. The nastiness is extraordinary. I like looking at my Twitter newsfeed because I want to follow 15, 20 different subjects. Then you turn and look at your notifications and you're immediately saying, why am I doing this? Why do I endure the pain?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like a lot of these platforms, they have the ability to do a lot of good in our world. They also have an ability to do a lot of bad. I didn't want to take that on.
They were responsible for the toxicity.
Yeah, and that was before the election. People would have left anyway because it would have been like, oh, Disney owns it. We're not going to be able to post porn or anything anymore, or say anything mean to anybody, so we're out of here. But yeah, today, speaking of all this, Twitter is testing a new anti-abuse feature called Safety Mode.
Oh boy!
So I think they're starting to look at their numbers, because notice what they're doing. They're doing the paid version of Twitter Blue, but part of the feature of that is you can kind of create a walled garden and not have to deal with like the rest of Twitter for a price. You don't have to deal with the riffraff for a price. You can just go to your own little private Twitter area with your people you like, and that's it. But they're also letting you turn on safety mode, which will automatically mute or block people that they think are problematic.
But what define problematic? Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people who, lean very, very, very far left that say a lot of really bullying and toxic things, but then somehow they get a pass because they have a blue check or whatever. So define problematic, because if someone can get away with saying whatever because they have a blue check, that's bullshit.
Yeah, so, this is, I've already seen this. I've seen some commenters, leave comments on our threads, and I'm like, why did this get blocked? It said this might contain potentially abusive whatever. You want to see it? And I'd see it, and I'm thinking, well, they're telling me to go, suck a bag of dicks or something. They're like, no, it's just like nothing. It's because that particular account they identified as being potentially problematic for whatever
it wasn't
reason.
even something bad they said.
Yeah, so I think eventually Twitter is going to implode anyway. But people are tired of it. They're leaving. There's the political issue, and it's getting more and more extreme. Like, look, we've been on Twitter pretty much since the beginning, like 2008, 2009. And it's only been the last year that I'm like, it is so bad. we should just cut our losses and leave.
But you know what's funny to me? They said they're worried about like the prevalence and visibility of harmful remarks. But what's interesting to me is they pick and choose what the harmful remarks are. Because I've seen them, there's people that post things that are like really, really shitty things. But because of who they are, they're allowed to post it. But I've seen people post things that were not that bad, and then they get in trouble. They're the ones that get.
Yeah,
it's like, protecting it from who? And it's like when they're talking to you and they're saying shitty things, you're supposed to grow a pair and just deal with it. But if you say, go suck it, then oh my God, how dare you?
Yeah,
they might have told you to catch on fire and die or something, but you're not allowed to say suck it back or something.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, Twitter is not the odds are not stacked in your favor. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, and I think it's going to spread beyond comics. I mean, it's very noticeable in comics because, like I said, we have more, I guess, professional on professional harassment.
And what the other day is, what it comes down to usually is how they think you lean politically is what the whole damn thing's about. Yeah. And I'm like, that shouldn't matter every day. Like, I talk to a lot of people who think differently than me, and I have no problems. I'm just so tired of it. Who do you think you voted for? That's going to determine whether we listen to you or not.
Yeah, so we'll see where Twitter is in 5 years, if Twitter is in 5 years.
Yeah,
because I really do think people are going to just nope out of it. I think more and more people, I think celebrities, it seems like, a lot of, well, look at Disney affiliated celebrities, the Marvel, Star Wars people, they're spending more time, except for Lucasfilm, they can't keep their damn mouths shut, but they spend more time on Instagram now for the most part than they do.
Well, they just take your Instagram post and then run it to Twitter and try to run you down over there then. No, that's what they do.
They should actually tell people not to do, like, that should be something too. Like, yeah, if somebody's dragging an Instagram post over here or something, like, I don't want to see it. Just mute those.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, we got to wrap this one up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.